When you sit down to work alongside a modern AI agent, the immediate sensation is immense capability. You ask a question, and within seconds, it is synthesizing data, drafting strategies, and handing you polished options. You feel like you're steering a massive intellectual machine with total control. This frictionless workflow has rapidly become the standard. According to 2026 data from the Human Clarity Institute, 46% of professionals now regularly rely on AI systems to support their daily decisions. But sitting right beneath that feeling of empowerment is what researchers call the perceived control gap. You might feel entirely in charge because you click the final button, but the machine has already framed the options, highlighted the trade-offs, and subtly shaped your evaluation process before you even made a choice. To see how AI began hijacking our actual reasoning, we can't just look at the last few years. We have to trace a 30-year timeline of how we've systematically offloaded our thinking to find the exact moment we crossed the line. As a biological organ, the human brain is highly metabolically expensive to run. To conserve energy, it naturally looks for ways to outsource rote, repetitive memory tasks to the outside environment. In the 1990s and early 2000s, we built incredibly effective tools to do this. We stopped memorizing long division and our friends' phone numbers, handing those static storage jobs over to physical calculators and digital contacts. Freeing the brain from memorizing 7-digit strings allowed for deeper focus on the actual conversation or the underlying logic of the math. During this era, we traded raw storage for cognitive bandwidth, outsourcing the facts while keeping the executive function of the mind intact. At the time, offloading static facts was completely safe. But the boundary of what we were willing to hand over to a machine was about to move from static data to active, continuous processes. By the 2010s, technology evolved from storing information to showing us how to find it. We began outsourcing the active process of navigation and retrieval. We saw the physical consequences of this shift in spatial memory. When neuroscientist Eleanor McGuire studied how people navigate physical spaces, it became clear that as humans outsourced routing to GPS devices, they lost their own spatial resilience. Without the constant demand to map their surroundings, the physical structure of the human hippocampus actually altered. The same thing happened to our digital navigation. In 2011, researchers at Columbia University identified what they called the Google effect, pinpointing the moment the internet became our collective external hard drive, our transactive memory. Psychologist Betsy Sparrow discovered that when people knew they had future access to a search engine, they stopped remembering the actual information. Instead, they only retained the memory of exactly where to go to find it. This era confirmed that cognitive offloading doesn't just save time, it physically and psychologically rewires us. It left our brains conditioned to trust external systems right as the technology made its biggest leap yet. Generative AI moves beyond simple retrieval. This technology offers recommendations, frames arguments, and actively participates in the reasoning process itself. To measure the hidden cost of this new collaboration, researcher Eduardo DeSanti from the University of Colorado Boulder developed a framework to track exactly what happens when humans and AI think together. He identified a condition called the automation trap. This happens when a human and an AI produce a highly successful, accurate piece of work together, creating the illusion of a brilliant partnership, while completely masking the fact that the human is actively de-skilling in the background. DeSanti measures this through the dependency ratio. In this model, a hybrid decision looks like a massive, high-performance output on paper, but that short-term boost hides the reality that the structure is dominated by the AI, resting on a shrinking foundation of actual human judgment. The true cost is revealed by the human cognitive drift rate. If you remove the AI assistance from this structure, the high-performance output vanishes. What's left is a human baseline capability that is now measurably worse than it was before they started using the tool. This technology breaks the 30-year evolutionary chain. By delegating the reasoning process to a machine, we have begun to outsource the core act of human judgment. DeSanti modeled the outcome of this transition using agent-based simulations. He gave digital problem solvers a choice: invest effort to learn a task, or use an AI oracle for an instant result. Even when these agents were forced to use a mixed approach,
trying to balance their own skills with machine help, the efficiency of the AI eventually triggered cognitive atrophy. In every scenario, genuine cognitive amplification failed to materialize. We can see this happening in real offices right now. The Human Clarity Institute found that human confidence is no longer generated internally. When an AI agrees with our choice, we feel a surge of certainty. But when it disagrees, nearly half of users immediately doubt their own judgment, seeking external validation before they act. History shows us that technological offloading only moves in one direction. Just as we never went back to memorizing long lists of phone numbers, we won't return to a world of entirely unaided, isolated decision-making. This era introduces a threat more specific than simple memory loss. We are witnessing the slow, invisible erosion of self-trust, leaving us incapable of owning our decisions without a machine's confirmation. To survive this trap, we have to change how we measure the value of these tools. We can no longer judge an AI system purely by the speed, polish, or accuracy of the answers it spits out. A system's success must be judged by its cognitive sustainability. It needs to keep the human cognitive drift rate positive over time. That means designing interfaces that demand mandatory human-first attempts and explicitly expose the AI's uncertainty, keeping the user actively in the loop. The ultimate goal of artificial intelligence shouldn't be to make human thinking obsolete. It must be designed to genuinely challenge, preserve, and amplify the mind that remains.